financial report from the auditor's office. Do I have a motion to accept that?
So moved.
Motion from Mr. Whitaker to accept approve the current financial report. Discussion. Call a roll, please.
Whitaker,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Godwin,
Yes.
Hensley,
Yes.
Rogers,
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Approval of the agenda. Lots happening here tonight. We need to add under ordinances and resolutions items 6 and 7. Item 6 will be an ordinance authorizing city employees to contribute sick leave hours to the account of another employee, and that has an emergency clause. And item 7 will be an ordinance authorizing a grant of right-of-way for an electric easement for Dayton Power and Light Company. Okay. Now, see, we only have the one committee report, right? Correct. All right. And other than that, that's all that we have to add at this time.
Move to approve the agenda as amended.
There you go. Motion by Mr. Schmidt to approve the agenda as amended. Discussion. Call the roll, please.
Whitaker,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Godwin,
Yes.
Hensley,
Yes.
Rogers,
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Okay, under public hearings, we have one scheduled for this evening. It's a zoning amendment to rezone 2.833 acres fronting Ohio Street, known as the Bish Discovery Center now, from the general business to SU, which is special use, at the request of the Darke County Park District, which I believe they own that property now. So anyone wishing to address council on this matter, it has been posted for 30 days. You want to go ahead and read that, please? Yeah.
A letter dated September 5th, 2018. Honorable members of council, at the August 21st, 2018 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, Darke County Park District's request was heard for a zoning amendment for 2.883 acres fronting Ohio Street, known as Bish Discovery Center. Members voted to send a favorable recommendation to City Council for the request to rezone the land from GB General Business to SU Special Use for recreational park use. The application is submitted by Roger Van Frank, Director of Darke County Park District, is attached. Minutes from the August 21st, 2018 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting are also attached. Sincerely, Mr. Bowman, Chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Okay, any questions for members of council? We have a member of the Darke County Park District Board of Commissioners here, Mr. Brocious. If anyone wants to comment or question the issue.
Like a nice facility.
Thank you. Proud of it, very happy to have it.
At this time, if there are no oppositions to that change, we don't need to, we will, the legislation is prepared, so I will declare the public hearing closed, and since there's no opposition, that legislation has been laid for 30 days, and there will be an ordinance under item 8, under ordinances and resolutions. That becomes item 8, to rezone the tract of land for the Darke County Park District for inclusion in the Alice Bish Park. That'll become item 8. Okay, any other persons wanting to address council may do so at this time. Please come and give your name and address. State your case. Everyone wants to get home and see the election results, I guess. Oh, I forgot to mention the polls are now closed. just so you know, the polls are closed.
Closed.
You're a little late. Moving on, administrative reports. Mr. Mayor.
Hey, a couple of little things. Since I've talked about it so much, it'll be the last time for this year anyway. Veterans Day is
approaching this week, Sunday. We've been trying to make it a little bit bigger deal for everybody this year. You know, one of the things that we considered, we have a small committee with members of the VFW, American Legion, ROTC, the junior ROTC at the high school, a couple of people from the community that we wanted to make it a little bit better this year. And I've told you before, it's the 100th anniversary of the armistice of World War I. So we'll have that on Sunday, the 11th. The parade starts at 10:30. Warren Davison will be here as part of the ceremony to give a talk on veterans. So hope everybody has a chance to attend. It'll be a nice event. Afterwards, there's a ham and bean dinner at the American Legion. Hopefully everybody at the parade will be there. So trying to set up something, a little Skype session with Kent and Stacy. It's still kind of up in the air, but it's a military, Navy military man that had an IED explode on him a year ago or so, and pretty bad shape. So we'll see how that goes. I'm trying to get with the family to work that out, but that's all for that. I have one other thing. We have a special meeting coming up, I think next week. Is this to make sure to clarify? Is it next week or is it
The work session, yeah.
work session? And you had told me that you possibly and Doug would not be here, and I just wanted to make sure everybody has their schedules right.
Okay, was that going to be the 13th?
Yeah.
Tuesday?
Week from today.
And that was a special work session regarding,
And that with the CIC?
that's right.
I just wanted to make sure we brought it up and make sure what,
Regarding what?
remind everybody. And
The Community Improvement Corporation, and that's at 6:30.
6:30. So what that is in our strategic planning, one of the main things we brought up was more communication with council. And last year, we had a joint session as a part of the strategic planning process, and we wanted to continue that. So we wanted to make maybe annually, we would meet at least with the council to explain what's going on, if they have any questions, and particularly this year to briefly go over the strategic plan to make sure we're on track with everybody's thoughts and what the city has as far as plans. So just want to make sure they jive, and not so much an okay, but
It'll be here.
and then, yeah, because it's just, you know, John was saying that, I'm sorry, President Burkett, that, that's too common, right? Too easy to say that. But anyway, it's, yeah, it's kind of hard to get together somewhere else because it's public venue and because it has to be an open meeting. And so it's just as easy to try to have it here, and we can maybe do a little presentation or something, So I don't know where we're at. Just want to make sure it's okay with everybody.
Yep.
And if you, President Burkett and Doug as pro tem, if you guys can't be there, and you had mentioned we need to, you know, make sure that we have to.
I will be here.
Okay, you'll be here.
Yep.
So, yeah, we would have had to vote on another
Right.
president, temporary. Okay, so you'll be here. Well, good. Okay, and I'll pass that.
Okay, thank you. Safety Service Director, Mr. Garrison.
Thank you, President Burkett. Good evening, council. You have my report in front of you this evening to go over several topics. First, just an update on the 4 Schweitzer Street project to let you know that I believe the final grading would have been completed today, and depending on the weather, we will try to put asphalt down as soon as possible to get the street portion tidied up before the snow starts flying. As we proceed through the cooler months, we will move forward with installing the concrete. The contractor will cover the concrete as necessary, but ODOT has authorized them to continue that work as we move along. So it is progressing ahead of schedule. We did not anticipate that we would have both sections this far at this time of the year. So with that, we hope that we'll be able to open up the street in the early spring of 2019. I have to apologize. There were a few subjects that, one, we discussed, but then overlooked and didn't bring any resolution to it. And then there was another meeting, or another topic that we just completely missed at the last meeting. So I need to bring those forward. And the next topic that I would like to talk about is sanitary sewer. And I know Mr. Godwin, as chairman of the utility committee, he has done some research on this topic as well. Previously, you have all received, I believe, a letter from the Darke County Health Department. And the Darke County Health Department has determined, I'm not sure the number off the top of my head, 7 or 8 properties that are along 49 South that have failing septic systems. And the health department has made several phone calls to my office asking what the requirements are for an individual who would like to tie in or obtain city services. Well, first and foremost, as we've talked about with a previous committee assignment, the city does not sell services outside of the city based upon a codified ordinance. However, exceptions have been made, and they've been made on a case-by-case basis. I communicated that with the health department, and it was determined that rather than go through, since these cases all came up at the same time, the notification letters all went out from the health department within a relative time frame. It was determined that maybe in the most efficient way for the city council, the health department, and the property owners to handle the situation was to address all of the property owners at one time. And as a council, this council, when they made a decision to make an exception to the codified ordinance, there were certain provisions that the individual who was requesting the exception, there were certain provisions that they needed to meet. An example, maybe not all-inclusive, but a couple examples would be they would need to sign a pre-annexation agreement. If they purchase sewer, they would need to get water, or if they were going to purchase water, they would need to also tie in to the sewer. Tap fees would need to be addressed, that the tap fees would be applicable. And then one of the other conditions was with the signing of the pre-annexation agreement, they agreed that if and when the property became annexed, they would agree to any particular zoning requirements that may be necessary at the time of annexation. Or they could, I believe we even wrote in one of the previous annexation agreement, pre-annexation agreement, that the property owner could ask for an exemption to any zoning requirements. But those are all topics that need to be discussed, and they need to be discussed about the properties that were within the letter sent by the health department. And then before that even, we have the committee assignment for the Kirkpatrick property. And what we were thinking again, and using our time most efficiently, would be to combine the Kirkpatrick property along with, of course, that one was also included within the letter of the health department. So that is a request this evening to have the properties on the health department letter combined with the committee assignment for the Kirkpatrick property. And we'll get to that probably after my report. So, any questions on that? Good, okay. Within our police department, President Burkett noted that legislation was being added this evening, and the legislation had to do with a patrol officer who is currently out on sick leave. This patrol officer has exhausted all of their paid time off. Therefore, they are not receiving a paycheck. In instances like this, the City Council has passed legislation that would allow all city employees to donate sick time hours to the affected person. So that is what the piece of legislation has to do with this evening that was added to the agenda.
And that's strictly voluntary.
That is strictly voluntary. Also within our police department, I do not have the pleasure to announce this evening that we are losing a patrol officer who is seeking out their dream in life to change occupations, and we wish him well. But Jesse Oswald, our SRO out at the high school, has announced his resignation, which would be effective January the 7th. We will miss him, and with that, it creates another void within our police department. We currently have one opening, and with this, we'll shortly have 2 openings. We've talked previously about the fact that we have a list, a current list, and that there were some potential candidates on that list. However, after background checks and the interview process, it's been determined that a couple of the candidates have sought other employment, and then there were others who were not able to pass the background check. So we're hopeful to be able to offer a conditional offer of employment to one of the candidates from the current test. And with that, we have made a request to Greg Zecker, the Civil Service Commission, to give another test. And we will be conducting that test on December the 15th. Within the street department, the council approved and I'm going to rain on your thunder here a little bit, Mr. Whitaker, but we'll kind of try to explain this well. A couple meetings ago, this council approved a committee report to hire or authorize the hiring of an individual who would operate the street sweeper. And we determined that this individual would be hired on a part-time basis at 32 hours per week and not to exceed 1,664 hours in a year. And as a part of that committee report, we knew that there was a conflict between what we wanted to do with the street sweeper employee and a codified ordinance that outlined the parameters of how the city was to hire part-time employees. And so with that report, the committee recommended and council approved a change to the codified ordinance. However, a change to the codified ordinance was not within the purview of the committee. Therefore, we feel that the simplest way to correct this and still be able to accomplish our goal in hiring the street sweeper operator would be to have a member of council rescind or make a motion to rescind the approved committee assignment, and then I would ask for a recommendation from this council to the law director to prepare legislation that would hire the street sweeper operator within the parameters that we have suggested. And yes, that legislation would supersede the codified ordinance, and that would be similar to what we just talked about with the sanitary sewer and making an exception of selling services outside the city. This is something that we have done in the past. So that would be my recommendation as far as how to handle that situation with hiring of the street sweeper operator. I'm not sure where you want to maybe consider all of that within the remainder of the agenda.
I think when we get down to the committee reports is when we'll deal with that, if that's acceptable to you.
It's fine.
And no offense taken.
Mr. Whitaker and I have.
Yeah. I've kind of heard the conversations, and I think we're all working towards the same goal here. We just need to be legal. So, and then the number 5 there, the urban park, and again, this is a piece of legislation that Mr. Burkett added, and I've somewhat had a prior discussion about this, and the prior discussion revolved around the city using city equipment and city personnel to install or dig a trench, and that trench would house the electric lines for various businesses along Broadway. It would also contain the electric needed for our traffic signal and the YOLO Park. And putting those lines underground, the purpose of that was to be able to remove a utility pole that sat on or sets on the YOLO property currently, and it's quite unattractive, and we're trying to make the park more attractive. So getting that pole out of there was a necessity. However, we cannot just eliminate the pole. The pole needed to be relocated. And it was determined that the location of the new pole was actually going to be outside of public right-of-way. The pole will be on private property, and it is my understanding that that private property owner has given their approval for the installation of that pole. The underground lines would cross over what is now was the city parking lot. That's why the city is involved and would need to give the utility easement to DP&L for the installation of those electric lines. Okay. And then I would like to end with going back and having another discussion about downtown redevelopment districts. We have had exhaustive conversations about the downtown redevelopment districts prior, and we are to a point where the draft rules and regulations of the districts have been developed, and it is we're to a point where we're ready to move forward with taking that draft and approving it with legislation. However, before we can approve the rules and regulations, there needs to be a public hearing. And by law, we have to notify all of the individuals property owners within the districts and the two school systems, the Greenville City Schools and the Miami Valley CTC, have to be notified 30 days prior to a public hearing to discuss these rules and regulations. And President Burkett and I have talked about the timing of this meeting, and we would like to, and refresh my memory, January, the last 2 Tuesdays in January, and whatever would work into members of council's schedule would be either the 22nd or the 29th. And due to 9 districts and inviting all of the property owners and the school systems, I do not believe that this chamber will be able to potentially house all those who might attend.
Just a quick question. Why the Miami Valley CTC?
Because they have a levy in Dark County, and they're receiving dollars from Greenville.
The city of Greenville? Greenville City Schools?
That's what our consultant is advising us.
Greenville City Schools hasn't been a part of the MVCTC.
Okay, well,
They're
I will,
standalone of their own CTC. I may be mistaken, things may have changed. But
Okay.
I know that
I know they have a levy in Dark County. Now, as to whether that covers
No, it only
Greenville.
covers the
Okay,
other
and maybe
school districts.
maybe he received bad information from
Yeah.
the county auditor, because that's how all of this got compiled.
Yeah.
So if we don't have to, we won't,
Yeah.
but we do have to at the very least, we have to notify Greenville City Schools. So we're looking at the 22nd or the 29th, which is the last 2 Tuesdays in January. Most likely, we would try to do a 6:30 or 7 o'clock meeting. And again, whatever night this council would discuss, I would, or decide upon, I would reach out to the folks at Memorial Hall and come back at the next meeting and let you know or confirm that particular date.
Yeah, Mr. Garrison and I looked at it, and to try to squeeze it in before the end of the year, we're getting into mid-December, and I think people are going to be busy with a lot of other activities. And if we wait till toward the end of January, it may be a little more, little better attended, providing no snowstorms or anything crazy, but you can only predict. So, yeah, I think that would be perhaps a safer bet for us, and would give also the city time to get all of the paperwork out to the
Correct people.
or, well, I don't know how many, but a lot of people.
Yeah.
So, does council have, at this particular time, have any preference as to
I'm good either way.
when
Either
it
one.
might be?
Tuesdays, I'm gonna have classes starting again.
Are you
Yeah, so Wednesdays are for me, but Tuesdays are bad.
29th and 22nd?
Yeah.
Okay. It really, might be when the availability of the facility might be an issue too.
Yeah, I would like to, if you decided on one date or the other, I can reach out to them and,
And we can deal with it more at the next council meeting.
right.
Okay,
Or I can reach out to them and find out if both dates are good, and then we can set the date at the next
Okay.
meeting if that's
that
acceptable.
would be good.
Okay.
Let's do that.
All right. And then I will close with this and let everyone, or remind everyone that do not believe that we will have another meeting before, but the Holiday Horse Parade is the 17th of this month. And
Week
that-
from Saturday.
Yeah, that parade starts at 7 o'clock. Broadway will be closed. And I'm not sure if you were around the circle earlier today, but the garland and the lights are going up. So the Christmas season is upon us. And with that, I will pass.
Okay. Thank you. Law Director, Mr. Brand,
I shall pass.
and Auditor, Mrs. Wellman.
Other than to remind you, President Burgett, that I had requested a committee assignment.
Yes,
Okay,
I have it right here in front of me.
okay, with that, I pass.
All right, thank you. Moving on to the committee reports. Before we take the committee report, first one, let me deal with these other two things. Mr. Godwin, I'm going to expand your utilities assignment as Mr. Garrison. Did you get a copy of this? Do you have a copy of it? Yes. Okay. To include, make it all inclusive, if you will, of the properties listed there. And that's taken care of. Then the auditor has submitted a request for a change to the personnel policy manual to include the use of sick time for any doctor's appointments. Sometimes it's, difficult to get into a care source now. So, let's see, Personnel Committee, that would be Mr. Whitaker, Mrs. Howdishell, and Mr. Wright. So you have an assignment regarding that issue.
Okay.
And could you have it by, do we have a particular deadline that's needed? Could at least by the last meeting in December, if we could?
Oh, sure, we'll get on it.
I was thinking yesterday, as I was looking at this, we normally like to have committee assignments terminate by the end of the year. This isn't a reorganization year, so that they can carry over into 2019, which shouldn't be a problem.
No,
If we were
we'll deal with it.
reorganizing, why?
We'll deal with it quickly.
Okay. Let's see, today is due December 18th. 18. That was a good year.
Were you around?
Oh, yeah,
That's right, you're a colonialist.
that's right. I'm not a millennial, I'm a colonial.
Long story.
We hear all this crazy stuff about millennials and colonial, or, well, not colonials, but that's what I are anyway. All right, now, was there another committee assignment that we needed? I don't think we've taken care of everything that you had requested, right, Mr. Garrison?
I believe so.
Okey-doke. Now, let's move on to the committee report out of the Finance Committee.
A report dated October 26, 2018. Honorable members, we hereby submit our report. The Finance Committee met on October 17, 2018 to consider the purchase of equipment for various departments. The committee may make a recommendation to council to prepare legislation to increase appropriations in the CIP to procure the approved equipment and to prepare legislation approving the purchase of various pieces of equipment. The committee reviewed the CIP equipment request with Safety Service Director Garrison, and the appropriate department heads. The committee feels the purchase of the equipment is necessary and recommends to approve the following CIP requests totaling $312,489. Fire staff vehicle, $40,001. Police cruiser replacement, $38,200. 4th Street Department 3/4 ton 4x4 truck replacements at $120,000. Snow plows for the truck replacements at $17,288. Street bank brush cutter with attachment that cuts up to 6-inch brush at $97,000. The committee recommends that legislation be prepared to increase appropriations in the CIP fund and also to approve the purchase of the equipment. Respectfully submitted, Committee on Finance, Chairman John Hensley, Vice Chairman Doug Schmidt, and Member Jeff Whitaker.
Do you have the signed copy of that? Huh? Well, let's have the signed copy before we vote on it. Okay, now we do have it signed by all 3 committee members. So you've heard the reading of the committee's report.
Move to accept the committee's report.
Motion by Mr. Rogers to accept the committee's report. Discussion.
Then the brush cutter thing that they have down there at the end for that, can I talk about that a little bit, or is it about accepting the committee report?
You have a question or comment
Yeah.
regarding the committee report? That's in the committee report.
Yes. I talked to ODOT about the brush cutter. They have 2 in 9 districts. And talked to the guy that does the maintenance out there. He said that the reason they have 2 is because usually one of them's broke down. And he said for the price of what those are, he goes, the city of Greenville having something like that, he goes, it's kind of crazy to have it. And they're expensive to maintain. He says if you roll it, he goes, you're looking at $5,000 to fix it. You know, the electronic stuff that's on it, and the oil gets mixed into whatever goes in it. And I would like to make some kind of a motion of taking that out of the committee report, of not buying it.
Are you offering an amendment to the committee report?
Yes.
We have an amendment presented by Mr. Godwin to remove the portion of the street bank brush cutter with, I gotta read, get over here where I read it, with attachment that cuts up to 6-inch brush. So your amendment is to remove that from the report. Further discussion on that item? Okay, you're voting on the amendment to which would be to remove that issue. Call roll, please.
Whitaker,
Yeah. Yeah.
Wright,
Yes?
Yes.
Yes to remove it?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Wright,
Yes.
Godwin,
Yes.
Hensley,
No.
Hoddeshell, oh, I'm sorry, Rogers,
Yes.
and Schmidt.
No.
Okay, motion carries 4-2, right? To remove that item. Okay, now you have the amended committee report to consider. Discussion on the amended committee report.
I just want to say that maybe, even though I voted yes on the amendment, I think that Mr. Delk should have some kind of input, to the council to explain his need for that piece of equipment. So everybody's got a good, clear indicator of what it's needed for in his eyes and what it's all about.
I don't know who all was present at the committee meeting, but usually that's why we have the committee
Right.
work as they
Mr.
do.
Duck was there.
Pardon?
Mr. Duck was there. and
He was
the
there.
presentation was given.
Yeah.
And we seen a YouTube video on how that thing works. Then I checked with Bobcat of Dayton and talked to him about some kind of a brush cutter or some kind of a thing to where you can use on a skid loader. And to go in and do like a brush cutting, that attachment that goes on the skid loader was like $6,500, my price to buy one from them. A finish mower for the skid loader would be $5,500. So if you bid through the state, it would be cheaper than what I could get it for buying it directly from them. So they could probably get it for $4,000 or, $3,000 versus $97,000.
But that's just speculation on your part, right? It's
Yeah.
nothing solid. You don't have any solid figures to present?
No, they didn't give me
Okay.
an estimate, but that's what they told me.
All right. Well, the motion is carried, so now you're voting on the committee report that deletes the brush cutter to the amount of $97,000. Further discussion? Call roll.
Whitaker,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Godwin,
Yes.
Hensley,
Yes.
Rogers,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Motion carries. Now, okay, you need that. That concludes our committee reports. And
Mr. Council President,
Leg-
we're going to address that issue
Oh.
regarding the,
yes, I'm sorry, before we do that, let me do one thing here. The legislation is prepared. Mr. Law Director, now that the legislation is prepared for those purchases, will we have to amend that ordinance? Yes, okay. Okay. So, the legislation is prepared and it becomes item 9 under ordinances and resolutions, okay? Which would be the ordinance out of the report out of the Finance Committee with the amendment. But the ordinance is prepared, so the ordinance will have to be amended also likewise. Now, Mr. Whitaker.
okay. As our Safety Service Director, Mr. Garrison previously had mentioned in his report, the Personnel and Public Relations Committee had previously dealt with the hiring of the new part-time street sweeper, and we kind of overstepped our bounds a little bit by recommending to amend the codified ordinance, section 252.08B, I believe it was. So I would like to rescind our committee report previously submitted and ask that we instruct the law director to draw up a new ordinance requiring that hiring without the request to change the codified ordinance.
Okay, so you're presenting that as a motion.
As a motion, yeah.
We have a motion by Mr. Whitaker to rescind the previous adopted committee report that included redoing the codified ordinance. Discussion on that issue. Okay, you are voting to rescind the ordinance, or no, excuse me, not the ordinance. You rescind the committee's report.
Report, yeah.
Call a roll, please.
Whitaker,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Godwin,
Yes.
Hensley,
Yes.
Rogers,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Okay, got that cleaned up. Now we can move forward with preparing that legislation, right, Mr. Garrison?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, council, appreciate that. New what? We'll have to take that one piece out. Huh? Well, the ordinance is prepared, but I said we could amend the ordinance, couldn't we?
Yes.
Yeah, we could amend the ordinance to take that out, right? It's listed separately in there, and is it not?
Actually, it's not. It's all grouped together with the street department purchases and
Oh.
the trucks. But I've got an email with the cost, so I can tell you when you get to it how much to deduct.
Okay, would that work? Satisfy I want the law director to be happy. That's what I want.
That would be different.
So we don't get, and the auditor, so she doesn't get dinged with the state auditor. Okay. Then, moving on to ordinances and resolutions, we have 9 to consider. First is the supplemental appropriations ordinance.
An ordinance to make additional appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Greenville, State of Ohio during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2018. This ordinance authorizes appropriations to the general fund for healthcare premiums general in the amount of $9,500. These funds are needed to cover healthcare premiums through December 31st, 2018. Refunds general in the amount of $444. These funds are needed to refund monies to an employee withheld in error. The employee had a portion of the city's health share of the health care withheld in error.
Mr. Council President, make motion to suspend the rules and read this by title only, second and third time.
Mr. Godwin, to suspend the rules, read the ordinance by title, second and third time. Discussion? Call the roll, please.
Whitaker?
Yes.
Wright?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
An ordinance to make additional appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Greenville, State of Ohio during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2018. An ordinance to make additional appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Greenville, State of Ohio during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2018.
Move to adopt the ordinance?
Motion from Mr. Rogers to adopt the ordinance. Discussion? Call the roll.
Whitaker?
Yes.
Wright?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Okay. And next is a transfer ordinance.
An ordinance for the transfer of funds among the appropriations of the various funds of the City of Greenville. This ordinance allows a transfer to the general fund from Equipment Maintenance Police Department in the amount of $7,000 to Gas, Oil, and Supplies Police Department in the amount of $7,000. This transfer is needed to cover additional fuel and supplies expense through December 31st, 2018.
Move to suspend the rules, give this second and third reading by title only?
Motion by Mr. Rogers to suspend the rules, read the ordinance by title, second, third time. Discussion? Call the roll, please.
Whitaker?
Yes.
Wright?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
An ordinance for the transfer of funds among the appropriations of the various funds of the City of Greenville. An ordinance for the transfer of funds among the appropriations of the various funds of the City of Greenville.
Move to adopt the ordinance?
Motion by Mr. Rogers to adopt the ordinance. Discussion? Call the roll.
Whitaker?
Yes.
Wright?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Next, we have an ordinance vacating an alley and portions of Central Avenue and March Street access to Wayne Healthcare property.
An ordinance vacating an alley and portions of Central Avenue and March Street for access to the Wayne Healthcare property. This ordinance vacates an alley and portions of Central Avenue and March Street as a permanent right-of-way for public alley, street, and utility purposes for access to the Wayne Healthcare property. The city shall have no future responsibility for or maintenance of the right-of-way property when construction is complete and the Wayne Healthcare building has been approved.
Making the motion to suspend the rules on this ordinance and read it by title only, second and third time.
Mr. Godwin to suspend the rules, read the ordinance by title, second and third time. Discussion? Call the roll, please.
Whitaker?
Yes.
Wright?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Pettishaw?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
An ordinance vacating an alley and portions of Central Avenue and March Street for access to the Wayne Healthcare property. An ordinance vacating an alley and portions of Central Avenue and March Street for access to the Wayne Healthcare property.
Motion to adopt.
Motion, Mr. Godwin, to adopt the ordinance. Discussion? Call the roll, please.
Whitaker?
Yes.
Wright?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Pettishaw?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Did you know that Mrs. Hubshaw arrived in time? Okay. Next, we have a resolution authorizing advertising for bids for water treatment plant lime removal.
A resolution authorizing advertising for bids for water treatment plant lime removal. This resolution authorizes the Safety Service Director and Water Superintendent to advertise for bids for the removal of lime sludge at the water treatment plant.
Make a motion to suspend the rules on this resolution and read it by title only, second and third time.
Motion, Mr. Godwin, to suspend the rules, read the resolution by title, second, third time. Discussion. Call the roll, please.
Whitaker,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Godwin,
Yes.
Hensley,
Yes.
Pettishell,
Yes.
Rogers,
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
A resolution authorizing advertising for bids for water treatment plant lime removal, and a resolution authorizing advertising for bids for water treatment plant lime removal.
Motion to adopt the resolution?
Motion, Mrs. Howdeshell, to adopt the resolution. Discussion? Call the roll, please.
Whitaker,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Godwin,
Yes.
Hensley,
Yes.
Pettishell,
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
And item 5, a resolution authorizing application for a grant. Applying for a splash pad in the city's South Park.
A resolution authorizing the application for a grant for installation of a splash pad, parking lot, and renovation for public restrooms in the city South Park. This resolution authorizes the Safety Service Director to file an application with the ODNR for a grant for installation of a splash pad, parking lot, and renovation of public restrooms in the city South Park.
Move to suspend the rules, give this resolution second and third reading by title only.
Mr. Rogers, to suspend the rules, read the resolution by title second and third time. Discussion? Call the roll.
Whitaker,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Godwin,
Yes.
Hensley,
Yes.
Pettishell,
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
A resolution authorizing the application for a grant for installation of a splash pad, parking lot, and renovation for public restrooms in the city South Park. A resolution authorizing the application for a grant for installation of a splash pad, parking lot, and renovation for public restrooms in the city South Park.
Motion
Motion to
to adopt this resolution?
Stereo. Motion of Mrs. Howdeshell to adopt the resolution. Discussion? Call the roll.
Whitaker,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Godwin,
Yes.
Hensley,
Yes.
Pettishell,
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
And next, we have an ordinance authorizing city employees to contribute sick leave to the account of another city employee and declaring an emergency.
An ordinance authorizing city employees to contribute sick leave hours to the account of another city employee and declaring an emergency. This ordinance authorizes city employees to contribute sick leave hours to Joe Monin, who has suffered an injury which has caused or will soon cause him to exhaust all of his accumulated paid leave. This ordinance has an emergency clause.
Move to suspend the rules and give this ordinance reading by title only, second and third time.
Motion by Mr. Whitaker to suspend the rules and read the ordinance by title second and third time. Discussion? Call the roll.
Whitaker,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Godwin,
Yes.
Hensley,
Yes.
Pettishell,
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
An ordinance authorizing city employees to contribute sick leave hours to the account of another city employee and declaring an emergency. An ordinance authorizing city employees to contribute sick leave hours to the account of another city employee and declaring an emergency.
Motion to adopt the emergency?
Motion, Ms. Howdeshell, to adopt the emergency clause. Discussion? Call the roll, please.
Whitaker,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Godwin,
Yes.
Hensley,
Yes.
Pettishell,
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Move to adopt the ordinance?
Motion by Mr. Rogers to adopt the ordinance. Discussion? Call the roll.
Whitaker,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Godwin,
Yes.
Hensley,
Yes.
Pettishell,
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
And item 7, which will be an ordinance authorizing the grant of right-of-way for an electric easement, Dayton Power and Light Company.
An ordinance authorizing a grant of right-of-way for an electric easement for Dayton Power and Light Company. This ordinance authorizes the mayor to grant right-of-way for an electric easement to Dayton Power and Light Company as requested by the YOLO Group for the Urban Park Project.
Move to suspend the rules and give this ordinance a second and third reading by title only.
Motion by Mr. Whitaker to suspend the rules and read the ordinance by title second and third time. Discussion? Call the roll.
Whitaker,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Godwin,
Yes.
Hensley,
Yes.
Pettishell,
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
An ordinance authorizing a grant of right-of-way for an electric easement for Dayton Power and Light Company. An ordinance authorizing a grant of right-of-way for an electric easement for Dayton Power and Light Company.
Move to adopt the ordinance?
Motion by Mr. Rogers to adopt the ordinance. Discussion? Call the roll, please.
Whitaker,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Godwin,
Yes.
Hensley,
Yes.
Pettishell,
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Okay, and the next is the legislation which would be an ordinance to change the zoning of the area known as, what is it? Bish, attractive Alice Bish Park. Okay, or to inclusion, whatever. So, one we had the hearing on, item 8.
An ordinance rezoning a tract of land for the Dark County Park District for inclusion in the Alice Bish Park. This ordinance rezones a tract of land west of Ohio Street, currently zoned as general business, to special use for the Alice Bish Park.
Make a motion to suspend the rules on this ordinance and read it by title only, second and third time.
Motion by Mr. Godwin to suspend the rules and read the ordinance by title second, third time. Discussion? Call the roll, please.
Whitaker?
Yes.
Wright?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Hottishell?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
An ordinance rezoning a tract of land for the Dark County Park District for inclusion in the Alice Bish Park. An ordinance rezoning a tract of land for the Dark County Park District for inclusion in the Alice Bish Park.
Move to adopt this ordinance.
Motion by Mr. Howdeshell to adopt the ordinance. Discussion? Call the roll, please.
Whitaker?
Yes.
Wright?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Hottishell?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
And finally, item 9. Now, this is the one that has the amounts of money in it. So, Mr., did you have a,
Yeah. The mower cost was $95,406. Half of that was going to be split between the stormwater fund and the CIP. So the legislation that you have in front of you was for half, only included half of the total cost. So that half is $47,703.
Did you change that from the 97,000 that we originally talked about?
I just went off of the quote that Ryan sent me. I don't know what numbers you used.
97,000, so you take 48.5 off of that.
Okay.
so we need to reduce this by 48,500?
Correct.
Okay. So, okay,
48,500.
yes. You'll have to probably rewrite that, retype it and everything. Okay. What we need to do is we need to go ahead and read it. Yep, as it's presented, or the title of the legislation. Read the title of the legislation.
An ordinance to make additional appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Greenville, State of Ohio during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2018.
I need a motion to suspend the rules, if you so choose.
I'll make a motion, but
You move
yeah.
to suspend the rules?
Yes.
Read it by
Second.
title only, second,
Mhm.
third time, all right? Motion to suspend the rules, read it by title, second, third time. Call roll.
Whitaker?
Yes.
Wright?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Hottishell?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
yes.
An
Now,
ordinance.
now, we needed them before we do that. Do it now, or before we pass it? To amend.
Oh, the amend, yes, you should amend it first.
Amend it, okay. All right, this time I would entertain an amendment to remove that amount of money, 45,000, what, $500?
48,000.
48, okay, 48,000.
So moved.
Motion, Ms. Howdeshell, to amend the resolution. Is it ordinance? Ordinance. Amend the ordinance to reduce it by $48,500, correct? Okay. Discussion on the amendment. Call the roll, please.
Whitaker?
Yes.
Wright?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Hottishell?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Now, we go ahead and read it by title. Second, third time, it's amended. You are, Well, okay, if you want to read the summary, just leave that out. Yeah. Well, just whatever,
Remove that cost.
just whatever the cost is removed.
An ordinance to make additional appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Greenville, State of Ohio during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2018. An ordinance to make additional appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Greenville, State of Ohio during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2018. This ordinance authorizes appropriations to the general fund for CIP transfer general in the amount of $263,989. These funds are needed to cover additional CIP purchases approved by council. That amount's changed too. And to the CIP fund for police new equipment CIP in the amount of $38,200, fire new equipment CIP in the amount of $40,001, street new equipment CIP in the amount of $137,288. These funds are needed to cover additional CIP purchases approved by council.
Okay, now you already read it. You just read the summary at the end. Okay. So we've had the second and third reading by title only. Right?
Did you mention the snow plows?
It's
all-
part of the
It's
street.
all part of
That's all part of it.
In the street department.
Motion to adopt.
Motion by Mr. Hensley to adopt the ordinance. Discussion. Call roll, please.
Whitaker,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Godwin,
Yes.
Hensley,
Yes.
Addishell,
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Yeah, you'll have to give me it. I'll just sign it, the top copy stating that we've passed it. And I'll come in and redo the other one. Figures. Okay. Hey, we got through that. Includes our ordinances and resolutions. You want to send those to the mayor? And any items of old business? Nothing under new business, communications.
Monthly reports were received from the Fire Department, Income Tax Department, and Street Department. A Transit Advisory Committee meeting notice for Wednesday, November 14th, 2018 at 3 p.m. at the transit facility was received. A press release regarding limb and brush pickup and fall leaf pickup was received, and a Cities and Villages magazine was received from the Ohio Municipal League. These reports, notices, and magazine were distributed to council.
Any other communications? Seeing none, we'll call down the council, please.
Mr. Whitaker,
Pass.
Mr. Wright,
Streetlights that are out, who's that reported to?
An individual can go on the internet and report it self-report it by poll number,
Okay.
or they can call into the mayor's office with a poll number, location, and we can enter the data.
Okay. I'll pass.
Mr. Godwin,
Hope everybody went out and voted today, and with that, I'll pass.
Mr. Hensley,
I will pass.
Mrs. Addishell,
Well, I want to thank everybody for coming out to vote today. I've been up since 5 o'clock this morning at the polls, working. So, and we had a real good turnout. I want to thank everybody for that, and thank everybody for being here tonight, and that's why I was late. And with that, I pass.
Mr. Rogers,
Yeah, I want to commend everybody that went out and voted today. And hopefully you made the right vote for what you felt. And so hopefully everything turns out with what you think. I pass.
Mr. Schmidt,
I'll pass.
President Burkett,
Well, if you didn't vote, you can't complain. Pure and simple. So, I hope you did. Hope you exercised that prerogative. We will finish up with the CIC, well, we have the CIC joint meeting scheduled, and then we will work on the other with the redevelopment districts. So, that's all I have.
6:30.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion by Mr. Godwin to adjourn. Call the roll, please.
Whitaker,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Godwin,
Yes.
Hensley,
Yes.
Addishell,
Yes.
Rogers,
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Thank you all for your attendance.